Hey, I'm Kelly, and today we are going to do a bouquet that cascades right off the arm. A very graceful look, very classic, timeless, elegant bouquet. I first saw this bouquet a long time ago before I started doing flowers. I was at Jesse's sister's wedding, Rebecca, and actually a lot of the Perry sisters have worked in flower shops over the year, and Rebecca has recently opened one in Berkeley, California, and we're really excited about that. And whenever Rebecca got married, they went to the flower market in San Francisco and they gobbled up the most amazing orchids, and she had these bouquets that they just came off the arm, and it was so glamorous and luxurious. I really loved it. And so I wanted to share that with you today. So I have some spirea foliage. And the reason why I picked this is because it has that natural shape like the orchids at Rebecca's wedding, where it just naturally falls and cascades right off the arm. So if I put this right here, it's already going in the direction that I want it to go in. Now, you can do something similar to this, a cascade, if you do some wiring and manipulating of stems that maybe aren't naturally falling this way, but using stems that naturally have the shape that you're wanting to go in is the easiest and most efficient way to do it. So I'm gonna just hold on to these right here, and then I'm gonna add a few more on this side, just so that I have some movement going on the other side as well. I don't want a big to do over on the opposite side. I want to focus primarily on this cascade, but I do want to round out this area over here so that there's a little place for my flowers to live and to be framed by. So this is the general shape of my bouquet that I'm working with. Now, whenever you're doing cascades like this that will come off the side, it's important to consider which side your bridal party is going to be standing on. Traditionally, the bride is going to be facing this way, and so cascading from the right side is where you'd want to be with all of your bouquets that are coming out. I'm going to add a little bit of this 9-bark foliage. I chose this and absolutely love it because if we can get a close-up here, you'll notice that in the leaves of the spirea, there's peach tones and some yellow tones, and so this 9-bark has that, the next step in the yellow tone. So I wanted to add some of this in there just for some gentle progression of color in terms of the greenery. And the little white flowers that are on it right now is really nice and supports where I'd like to head with the look of everything. And when you are doing something that's cascading down the one side as it is, it really is just going to be one-sided because this is all going to be close into the body. So you want it to be comfortable for everyone to hold. So you don't need focal flowers back in this area. We're just going to concentrate on this side here. Now, up in the mountains, it's May right now, and we have this fantastic false Solomon seal. It's like gigantic astilbe. So it's wonderful for something cascading like this that I can have it. This is a smaller piece. I'm going to start with a larger one. I can have it shoot out and cascade down the sides, adding that texture. And it mimics a little bit what's going on in this 9-bark foliage, this happy little puffs. And as always, I've got my mirror off here to my right side so that I can check in and see what the bouquet looks like as it's actually being held. I think that's so helpful. Okay, now just so I have a little bit more control over where I'm headed, I'm going to snip off some of these long stems. That'll keep the flowers from, if you find that they're moving around when you arrange, that'll keep them from bouncing around because there's so much weight going on under here. Also, stability flowers are really helpful for that. Having a nice grid in here. Maybe you want to use some carnations if you find your flowers are moving around quite a bit. That's something you can do as well. I'm going to take a quick peek and see which of these is naturally falling in the direction that I'd like to go in. I think we'll start with this one here. And this mock orange starts taking the medium-sized flower out to the sides. And right there, I just use the natural branching structure that I have in the mock orange to sort of gather everything up and hug it to keep it in place. Okay, so it was like this, but now if I just do it like this, now I can see those cute little yellow middles and it makes a nicer sweep across the bouquet. Next I'm going to add some of this fantastic foxglove. Love this. This arrangement is going to be photographed at a winery where there's a lot of terracotta, oranges, reds. And so I love this foxglove for that particular type of setting, because if you see here real close up, the insides of the foxglove have the peach, and there is just the most subtle pink little spots underneath of it, and just that little touch of red. Really nice. The request for this bouquet was for it to be mostly pastels with just a pop of a bright color, this bright kind of burgundy. So that's what we're doing. So I'm just going to do burgundy on the one side, I think, and I'm going to, I have two pieces here, and then this third one, I want to have some depth in my bouquet. I don't want it to look flat, so adding this helps with that. You can also see this little bit of a line that I'm creating where it progresses back and through the bouquet. And next I have some of these beautiful Belle Epoque tulips. And I just want to use those to carry color back further in the bouquet and down this cascading piece. The taper candles as you range are completely optional, but I like feeling fancy. I told Jesse that was going to be a part of my new thing. I was always going to have some fancy candles go on whenever I arrange for you guys. I think it's nice. Candles are warm and inviting. So why not incorporate them into your everyday? I do have a little bit of a terror story about that though. Once I, actually it was a wedding at the same place where this will be photographed, but I was up late and arranging and had the candle going, and I burned it all night long, and it was still burning when I came back in the morning. Just called burn the candle at, well, not both ends, but burning the candle all night. So, candle safety 101. Make sure you blow it out. Okay. One time I left a hot glue gun on for a week. Couldn't figure out why it smelled so funny. That's why. So Jesse's really good at helping me with those things. Oh man. I just get to thinking about something else. Not good. Okay. Geum. Really cute little flower. I've had this grown in the garden for, I guess it's been about 3 years now, but I love how, if you can get a close-up of that, how it takes me from this bright red over to this peach because of the center, how the middle looks. So let me just take a quick peek here and see. Yeah, that looks good. Now we're just gonna sprinkle in some groupings of this geum. Whenever you're working with flowers that are maybe a little bit smaller, or maybe even something that you don't have a whole lot of, grouping them together is very powerful because they make a greater impact together than they do all by themselves. Just like the flower community. Whenever we're united in the way that we're thinking and moving about and all those kinds of things, we can do a lot of really great things. Again, I still want to have a little bit of depth. So while I'm concentrating my efforts here on the front with the geum placement, I am going to put just a few little stems in the back just so that it carries through. Let's add these ranunculus in here as our finishing flower, or our focal flower. Oh, I have a little hitchhiker. Come on, little guy. I had a situation once where my ranunculus was full of worms, completely full of worms. It was one of the hardest weddings I've ever done. Long story on that one. Anyway, Foxy from Pharsalia, she helped me swish all of those. I'd brought them up to her and I was picking up peonies from her, and I realized whenever I got there to pick them up that they had these worms in them, and so we swished just upside down in a bucket of water, and all was well. They came out and I survived. Everyone survived except the worms, I guess. Okay. Now I pulled this one really beautiful piece of tree peony foliage, I guess it's a hybrid, to frame this area in here. So I'm going to pop it right in here and then rearrange our ranunculus so that it hugs the flower. And that offers that nice contrast that they were looking for with that dark red and then right up against the white. But we have all these other things going on in here too that help bridge the gap and put these things together. I also thought this coral bell foliage would be pretty in here, but I don't think we need it and the peony foliage as well. Just has that little touch of red in there. then let's finish it off with some of this 9 bark that complements the peony foliage. This is a different kind of 9 bark, darker color. Let's put it back in here. Okay, let's do a little mirror check. Make sure there aren't any flowers that are on the same level and paired up so that they look like they're staring at us. Before I do that, I am just gonna put a quick little piece of tape on here. You could use rubber band, you could use, oh, I've seen people use all kinds of things. Zip ties, Velcro. I like to keep things simple, so if I use tape for other projects, making containers, I just want to keep tape on hand. Okay. Could do a little more right in here. I think some more GM would be pretty if it's shot from this angle. I also have those 2 really strong tulip lines. Can you see those? These 2 stem lines are very strong, so I would like to soften that up possibly. Maybe with a little bit more spirea or 9 bark. It's just depending on how that shot, your eye just goes straight for those stem lines. But I like that we can also, we can hold it here. It has still some framing in this area. Okay, so let's add this little bit of GM right in this area. Fill that out a little more. And since I know that I was kind of approaching it from this angle, I'm going to face the flowers that way so they're noticed and appreciated. There we go. We just need that little touch, a little bit more color in that area. Takes care of that. Now let's address these tulip stem lines. I think, wondering if we can soften them up with this a little bit. Let's try. See if our stem is long enough. If not, we'll go in for some spirea or 9 bark. But that does help soften that up quite a bit. Just don't know if it softens it up. I think I need a little bit of a longer piece. But I do want to add these. These are pretty. They have that nice contrast back and forth as well. Let's see if we want to go dark or light. I don't like how that affects the shape of things. I wouldn't mind having a little bit of an upswing there though, so I can leave. Well, then that affects this. Everything affects something else. So you kind of have to decide what your primary goal of the shot is. I'm going to do this just lower. I like how that swings up just a little bit and then it towers down in this area. Let's see, I think spireas, we just need a little piece of this for a tulip situation. Or possibly another tulip. Let's see if we put a tulip partway in, if we can avoid the greenery. I don't want it to get too messy. Yeah, I like that. Sometimes over-greening something is not good. Let's just tuck his stem under the mock orange. It makes it a little bit less prominent. Takes care of that. If you want, you can pop the tulips open just a little bit, show their middles. They have a really nice dark brown center. I think that looks really nice with the colors that we have going on in here. If you peel it back just a little bit too, it reveals the burgundy, or that rosy color that we see in the foxgloves. That's really nice as well. It's a pretty fantastic flower. We'll just wrap up with these 9 bark pieces and a few of these coral bell pieces as our finish. And I think she's done. Okay, next we're gonna get this, we have it, we'll tape it. I'm gonna go around it, and then I'm gonna go backwards to make another place for our, just to make another connection point, and then also to have a place for our ribbon to start. So I'm going forward and then backwards. Usually at this point with the wedding, I would just sit aside, do some other projects, come back, see if I want to adjust anything or switch it. So I don't feel like it has to be finished the second that you sit it down, but sometimes it's good to just walk away from it, have a different perspective. In terms of how short to cut your stems, with this being one that cascades over the end, we do need a little bit more stem length than I would normally have on a bouquet, but I think this should be good so that the hand can grab on the end like that. Okay, so I'll be right back and we'll ribbon. I'm back with my ribbon. I have some pretty velvet from May Arts, and then I have some silks from Silk and Willow. And this bouquet is going out for, we're gonna take it out and do a little photo shoot. I haven't seen the actual fabric of the dress. So what I normally do in situations like this, if you happen to be in a similar one, I'll create kind of two different options for the streamer part. The handle part you don't really see all that much. Usually it's, you know, covered up by whatever embellishments are being used. So I'm just gonna do a simple wrap in the velvet, and then I'll create a velvet streamer and one out of the silks as well. So I have my tape, like we went backwards, so I have a nice little place to connect this already. And I think this is a 3/4 inch ribbon, so I'm probably going to go around it 3 times. So that what I end up with is about 1.5 inches. Now when I do add ribbons, a lot of times I'll do the pin of the bouquet, which would be considered, you know, kind of like the back of the bouquet in the front, because then I'll be covering that pin up. Or you can approach it from the angle of, you know, put your thumb where the pin is if you're, you know, describing to the bride how to hold it and what to do. It really does not matter. Okay. Now I have this vase, which half of you will think is really cool and the other half of you will be like, what is that? And I chose it for transporting a big bride's bouquet like this. When I saw it, I thought it would be helpful to have something like this that has a nice strong lip on the side and is pretty heavy, because now when I put the flowers in there to transport them, if I put this in a regular bouquet vase or something without a lip, I would constantly be fighting this as I was driving along, unless I had it packed like really, really good and tight. But this just adds that little bit of support to, you know, hang over the edge. So anyway, I just wanted to put that up here and kind of show you my little thoughts about that. And then let's work on streamers. Okay, so for the velvet one, I think I'm going to do a simple set of loops. So you're just going to see me loop, 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 loop. And you can do a lot of different shapes with loops. They're fun. So I'm going to do 3 loops, graduating the sizes with each one. I'm going to leave a little tail. This is part one of the loops. So I'm going to pin that, make sure it goes through all the sections. And I'm going to do the exact same thing, but I do opposite now. So they'll fit together. Okay, let's see here. Bottom loop. So now I'm moving towards my left instead of towards my right as I'm layering these loops. Again, pinning through all the layers. So I have these 2 pieces that fit together, and then the tails that can come down behind. I'm going to do 1 loop down the middle with 1 more tail to join it all together. This pin that I'm putting through, I want to make sure I can get it through the top loop and then those bottom 2 as well. And this one, the pins will show, so I want to make sure those are all level and how I'd like them. And this big pin right here has quite a lot going through, so let me resituate him. There we go. You could work some glue magic if you wanted to. There's more than one way to make this style of ribbon piece, but I can just use pins. It's my personal preference. So don't feel like you're stuck there and that you have to do it this way. You might have another system that you like to use. I'm just flipping the ribbons around so that the velvet is facing out. And then with these 3 pins, I'm gonna poke that right into the bouquet. And then these you can finish off however you like. Since I have a series of 3, I like to do the V's as opposed to the single cuts. Okay. So there's one option. Pretty fancy. So we're going to do something a little simpler on this next one. Next I have my silken willow ribbon. Sometimes I've had this stored and wound and rewound so it can get a little bit, silks get a little bit wrinkly. So I'm going to take my hair straightener and just check and make sure, do a test section, make sure you're not going to damage the fabric in any way, but having just a little mini hair straightener on site if you run into any ribbon emergencies, and of course in the studio as well, is very helpful if you're having a bad hair day or if your ribbons are wrinkly. So you can just run it through and do it this way. If you've got this, you can use the quick little hair dryer at the venue and just get out your little hair straightener and emergency solved. No ironing board required. Okay, so like I said, we're going to keep it simple. I don't have, not using a ton of ribbon. I'm just going to pinch back and forth, like when you were I don't know if you did this whenever you were a kid in elementary school, but we'd make those paper fans. I went to a school that had no air conditioning. It was right by a farm where there was always manure on the ground. It was gross. Anyway, we would make these fans, fan ourselves in the 5th grade. So basically, that's what I just did here. I made that little spot to poke a pin through. And then poke that pin through and into the bouquet. You can do a little wrap around if you want like a stripe. kind of keeping that fanning going. So I'm going to do the ribbon. Since this ribbon is very thick, I wanted to thin it down just a little bit for this, so you can see how if you kind of fan and fold over, you can have a more delicate, thinner ribbon bow there at the top. And let's do one more and see if we can reach. I just was wanting to do a kind of like a 4, like a double bow. And in looking in this in the ideal world, I think I would rather have it wrapped with the same shade of silk, but I always make notes for next time. Okay. Or if I just spread this silk that I already have on here out a little bit, I think I can get the same kind of look. Okay, great. So there's another little wrapping way.